The mysterious SOS. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, everything was calm. Stars twinkled peacefully, and planets orbited slowly in their paths. It was a place where nothing exciting ever happened. But that all changed when a strange signal appeared. The Galactic Council's communications center was the first to detect it. A bright red light flashed on the control panel, catching the attention of Officer Rin. He frowned and leaned closer, studying the signal carefully. It was an SOS, a call for help. But something about it felt different. The signal was old, much older than any other distress call he had ever seen. Its frequency was ancient, from a time long forgotten. It echoed through space, repeating the same message over and over again, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. Rin's fingers danced over the controls, trying to trace the source. "That's strange," he muttered. "It's coming from a forbidden zone. No one lives there." The forbidden zone was a dead part of space, avoided by all species due to legends of powerful wars and lost civilizations. He reported the finding to his superior, Commander Valor, who stood tall with sharp eyes and a serious face. Valor listened carefully, his face tightening with concern. "An SOS from the forbidden zone. Impossible. No one dares go there." "But the signal is real," Rin insisted, showing the data on his screen. "And it's been repeating for a very long time. Maybe centuries." Valor's eyes narrowed. Centuries. That was unheard of. A distress call lasting that long was strange indeed. And if it was from a lost civilization, it could mean danger, or worse, a threat to the entire galaxy. "We can't ignore it," Valor decided, his voice firm. "Send a scout team to investigate. But be cautious. I don't want any surprises." Meanwhile, far away on the planet Zephyr, Captain Mira was resting in her quarters. A skilled pilot and leader of the Galactic Rescue Fleet, she had seen many strange things in her life, but nothing could prepare her for the mission she was about to receive. Her communicator beeped, breaking her peaceful moment. "Captain Mira, report to the command center immediately." The voice was urgent, and Mira knew it must be serious. She stood up, her long dark hair flowing behind her as she rushed to the control room. When she arrived, Commander Valor was waiting. His face was tense, and his eyes showed a hint of worry. "Captain Mira, I have a special mission for you." He pointed at the screen, where the SOS signal was displayed. Mira looked at the pattern, her eyes narrowing as she studied the ancient frequency. This is old. Very old. She could feel something in her gut, a sense of unease, as if the signal was calling to her. "Yes," Valor agreed, "and it's coming from the forbidden zone. We need you to investigate." Mira's heart skipped a beat. The forbidden zone was a place of legends, where many ships had gone missing without a trace. But she was never one to back down from a challenge. "Understood. I'll take my team and leave at once." As she prepared her ship, her crew grew curious. "An SOS from the forbidden zone. Do you think it's a trap?" asked Jax, her loyal co-pilot. "I don't know," Mira replied, tightening her gloves. "But we're going to find out." The crew boarded the ship, the engines humming as they powered up. Mira took her seat at the controls, her eyes focused and determined. "Destination set. Forbidden zone," she announced. "Let's see what's waiting for us out there." The ship soared into the dark void of space, the SOS signal growing louder as they approached. It echoed through the speakers, a haunting sound that sent chills down their spines. Jax shivered. "It feels alive, like it's watching us." Mira didn't respond, but she felt it too. The signal wasn't just a call for help. It was ancient, powerful, and filled with mystery. What could have survived in the forbidden zone for so long? And why was it calling out now? The ship entered the forbidden zone, the stars dimming as if the darkness was swallowing them whole. The signal grew stronger, more intense, guiding them deeper into the unknown. Mira's eyes remained on the screen, her heart pounding with anticipation. Whatever this is, it's not just an SOS. The part ended with the ship disappearing into the darkness, the haunting signal echoing around them. Something ancient was waiting for them, and it was about to change everything. The stars grew dim as Captain Mira's ship entered the forbidden zone. It was as if the light itself was afraid to follow them. The air inside the cockpit felt colder, heavier. Mira's fingers tightened on the controls, her sharp eyes never leaving the screen. The ancient SOS signal echoed through the ship, its haunting tone sending chills down her spine. Jax leaned forward, his face pale. "I don't like this place. It feels cursed." Mira didn't reply, but she felt it too. The darkness around them seemed alive, pressing in on the ship, whispering secrets from a time long forgotten. But there was no turning back now. They had a mission to complete. "Stay focused," she ordered, her voice steady. "We need to find the source of that signal." The crew worked in silence, their eyes wide with fear. They were all experienced explorers, but none of them had ever faced a place like this. The Forbidden Zone was a legend, a place where ships disappeared without a trace. The ship's sensors flickered, struggling to read the strange energy around them. "Captain, the readings are unstable," said Zara, the ship's engineer. "It's like the space here is broken." Mira's jaw tightened. "Keep the shields up. I don't want any surprises." The signal grew stronger as they moved deeper into the darkness. It was louder now, echoing through the ship like a ghostly whisper. Jax shivered. "It sounds angry." Mira shook her head. "No, it sounds lonely." Her word hung in the air, heavy with mystery. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The control panels sparked, and the screens went black for a moment before coming back to life. Zara's fingers danced over the controls. "What was that?" "Some kind of energy surge," Mira answered, her voice calm but tense. "Hold the course. We're getting closer." The darkness outside grew thicker, almost like fog. It wrapped around the ship, hiding the stars. Jax's voice was shaky. "I've never seen anything like this. It's like we're flying through shadows." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Stay sharp. We don't know what's out there." Suddenly, a flash of light appeared in front of them. It was brief, like lightning in the darkness, but it was enough to reveal something massive. A structure, ancient and broken, floating in the void. The crew gasped, their eyes wide with shock. It was a ship, larger than any they had ever seen. Its hull was scarred and shattered, pieces of metal drifting around it like ghostly debris. But even in its ruined state, it was beautiful, powerful, and terrifying. Jax's voice trembled. What is that?" Mira stared at the ancient ship, her heart pounding. "I don't know, but it's where the signal is coming from." The SOS was louder now, echoing through the cockpit, vibrating through the ship's walls. It felt alive, like it was calling to them, drawing them closer. Zara's face was pale. "That ship, it's been here for centuries. How is the signal still active?" Mira shook her head. "I don't know, but we're going to find out." She guided the ship closer, her eyes locked on the ancient wreck. It was massive, larger than a space station, its design unlike anything she had ever seen. The hull was covered in strange symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. They were written in a language no one recognized, curling and twisting like vines. Mira's breath caught in her throat. "This ship, it's not from this galaxy." Jax's eyes widened. "You mean, it's alien?" Mira nodded. "Very alien, and very old." The SOS signal pulsed, growing louder, more intense. It echoed through their minds, vibrating through their bones. It wasn't just a call for help. It was a warning. Zora's voice was shaky. "Captain, maybe we should leave. This place, it feels wrong." Mira hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. But she couldn't. "Not yet. We need to know what happened here. We need to know who sent that SOS." She guided the ship towards an opening in the massive hull, a gaping wound that led into darkness. The SOS was deafening now, echoing through the shadows. It was close. Very close. Jax swallowed hard. I've got a bad feeling about this. Mira's eyes were cold and determined. Me too, but we've come this far. We can't turn back now. The ship entered the ancient wreck, its lights cutting through the darkness. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols, glowing faintly. Shadows danced around them, moving with the ship. It felt like they were being washed. The part ended with the ship disappearing into the ancient alien wreck, the SOS signal echoing around them, guiding them deeper into the mystery. Whatever was waiting for them inside, it was ancient and very, very powerful. The darkness inside the ancient ship was absolute. It swallowed the light from Mira's ship, leaving only thin beams that struggled against the shadows. The air felt heavy, cold, almost alive. Every breath seemed to echo, bouncing off the ancient metal walls. The strange symbols glowed softly, casting eerie patterns on the floor. They twisted and curled, whispering secrets in a language no one could understand. Mira's eyes followed them, her heart pounding. Keep the scanners running. I want to know what's in here. Zara's fingers danced over the controls. Captain, I'm picking up strange energy readings. They're coming from deep inside the ship. Mira's gaze hardened. That's where the SOS is coming from. We're getting closer. The signal was louder now, vibrating through the walls. It was no longer just a call for help. It was alive. It pulsed with a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, echoing through the ancient halls. Jax shivered. This place gives me the creeps. It feels haunted. Mira didn't answer. She felt it too. There was something in this ship, something old and powerful, something that didn't belong in this galaxy. But she couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when they were so close. The ship's lights flickered as they moved deeper into the wreck. Shadows danced around them, moving in strange patterns. For a moment, Mira thought she saw faces in the darkness, twisted and broken, whispering silently. She shook her head. It was just her imagination, wasn't it? Zara's voice broke the silence. Captain, the symbols, they're changing. Mira's eyes widened. The glowing symbols on the walls were moving, shifting slowly, twisting into new shapes. It was like they were alive, watching them, reacting to their presence. Jax's face was pale. This isn't natural. Mira's jaw tightened. Stay focused. Whatever this is, we're not turning back. The walls groaned as they moved deeper into the ship, the ancient metal bending under an invisible weight. The symbols continued to change, their glow growing brighter, more intense. The SOS was deafening now, echoing through the ship, vibrating through their bones. It was more than just a signal. It was a warning. They entered a massive chamber, its walls covered in the same glowing symbols. In the center stood a strange device, ancient and alien, surrounded by shattered metal and floating debris. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the SOS, its energy twisting through the air. Zara's voice was shaky. That's the source of the signal. Mira moved closer, her eyes locked on the device. It was beautiful and terrifying, its design unlike anything she had ever seen. It was ancient, powerful, and broken. Pieces of it were missing, shattered and scattered around the chamber. But it was still alive, still pulsing with energy. Jax swallowed hard. What is that thing? Mira shook her head. I don't know, but it's been here for centuries, maybe even longer. The symbols on the walls glowed brighter, their light twisting towards the device. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing down on them. It felt like they were being watched, judged. Zara's eyes widened. Captain, the energy readings, they're off the charts. This thing, it's not just sending a signal. It's calling something. Mira's heart skipped a beat. Calling. What? Before Zara could answer, the chamber shook. The metal walls groaned, the ancient ship trembling. The shadows around them twisted, moving faster, their shapes changing. Faces appeared again, clearer this time, their eyes hollow, their mouths open in silent screams. Jax stumbled back. "Captain, something's here." Mira drew her weapon, her eyes scanning the darkness. The shadows moved, swirling around the ancient device, their whispers growing louder. They were angry, restless, hungry. The device pulsed, its energy twisting through the chamber, pulling at the shadows. The faces screamed silently, their eyes wide with fear. They were being drawn towards the device, their shapes breaking apart, twisting into spirals of light. Zara's voice was trembling. "Captain, those shadows, they're souls." Mira's blood ran cold. The shadows were spirits trapped in this ancient ship, pulled towards the device by an unseen force. They were prisoners, locked in an endless cycle of pain and suffering. The symbols on the walls glowed fiercely, their light burning brighter, hotter. The device pulsed again, its energy growing stronger. The shadows screamed, their faces twisting in agony as they were absorbed into the machine. Mira took a step back, her heart racing. "We need to get out of here. Now." The chamber shook again, the walls cracking under the pressure. The device pulsed wildly, its energy spiraling out of control. The symbols on the walls began to shatter, their light exploding into shards. Jax's voice was filled with panic. "Captain, the ship, it's falling apart." Mira turned to the exit, her voice firm. "Move. Get back to the ship." They ran, the chamber collapsing behind them. The shadows screamed, their voices echoing through the ancient halls, begging for freedom. But the device was relentless, pulling them in, feeding on their pain. As they raced through the dark corridors, the SOS grew louder, more desperate. It was no longer just a signal. It was a cry for help, a warning of the danger that lay ahead. They reached their ship just as the ancient wreck began to collapse. The device's energy exploded, tearing the chamber apart, sending shockwaves through the forbidden zone. Mira's ship launched into space, the darkness swallowing the ancient wreck, its light disappearing into the void. The SOS was gone, its haunting echo fading into silence, but the danger wasn't over. Mira's eyes narrowed as she looked at the forbidden zone on the screen. Something was still out there, something ancient, powerful, and very, very angry. The part ended with the crew staring at the void, their hearts pounding. They had survived, but the mystery was far from over. The crew sat in silence as the forbidden zone faded into the darkness behind them. Mira's hands were tight on the controls, her mind racing. The ancient ship was gone, swallowed by the void, but its warning still echoed in her ears. Jax broke the silence, his voice shaking. "Captain, what was that thing?" Mira's eyes stayed on the stars. "I don't know, but it was old, older than anything we've seen before." Zora's face was pale. Those shadows, those souls, they were trapped there for centuries. Mira nodded, her jaw clenched. Something cursed that ship, something powerful enough to bend time itself. Jax shuddered. "And we almost got pulled in with them." Mira's grip tightened. The device, the shadows, the strange symbols, they were all connected. But how? And why? She looked at Zara. "Did you record everything?" Zara nodded. "Every symbol, every reading." "But, Captain, the energy levels were off the charts. It was like the ship was alive." Mira's eyes narrowed. Alive or haunted? A cold shiver ran through the room. Haunted. The word hung in the air, heavy and menacing. It felt right, but it didn't explain the SOS. Why would a haunted ship send a call for help? Jax broke the silence again. "Captain, what do we do now? We barely made it out alive." Mira looked at him, her eyes fierce. "We find answers. Whatever that ship was, it's part of something bigger, and I want to know who or what is behind it." Zara's fingers moved across her console. "I've analyzed the symbols. They match ancient markings found on ruins across the galaxy. But these are much older. Mira leaned in. How much older? Zara's voice was low. By at least 1,000,000 years. A heavy silence fell. 1,000,000 years. The ancient ship was older than most civilizations in the galaxy. It had survived the rise and fall of empires, waiting in the darkness, trapped with its cursed souls. Jax's face went pale. Who could build something that old and that powerful? Mira's mind raced. There were legends, stories whispered in dark corners of the galaxy, tales of an ancient race that ruled the stars before time itself. But they were just myths, weren't they? Zara's voice broke through her thoughts. Captain, I found something else. The SOS. It wasn't just a call for help. It was a warning. Mira's heart skipped a beat. A warning. About what? Zara's fingers danced over the screen. I don't know, but it was broadcasting across multiple dimensions. It was like it was trying to reach someone, or something, that wasn't in our universe. Mira's blood ran cold. Something beyond their universe. The shadows, the souls. Were they from another dimension? Another reality? Jax's voice was tight. Captain, if that thing was calling across dimensions, what answered? A chill ran through the room. Mira didn't want to think about it. Whatever answered the SOS, it was still out there. Watching. Waiting. The ship's lights flickered. The air grew colder. Zara's console beeped, her eyes widening. Captain, I'm picking up another signal. Mira's heart raced. From the forbidden zone. Zara shook her head, her face pale. No, from inside our ship. The lights flickered again. A shadow moved across the wall, twisting and curling. It looked almost human, but its face was hollow, its eyes empty. It stared at them, its mouth open in a silent scream. Jax stumbled back. No, it can't be. The shadow moved, its form stretching, its fingers clawing at the walls. The air grew colder, heavier. It felt like they were being watched, hunted. Mira's voice was sharp. Everyone to the bridge. Now. They ran, the shadow following, its movements unnatural, distorted. It moved through the walls, its hollow eyes fixed on them, its silent scream echoing through the ship. They reached the bridge, the door closing behind them. But the air was still cold, the shadow's presence pressing down on them. It was inside. It had followed them. Zara's hands trembled. Captain, I think it's one of the souls from the ship. Mira's eyes widened. It followed us. But how? Zara looked at her screen, her voice shaking. When the device exploded, its energy fused with our systems. It's inside the ship's circuits, inside our technology. Jax's face was pale. We brought it with us. We brought the curse with us. Mira's mind raced. The ancient ship was gone, but its curse was still alive. The shadow was a prisoner, trapped in a nightmare that never ended. It had followed them, searching for freedom or revenge. The lights flickered, the shadow twisting on the walls, its hollow eyes burning with anger. It was no longer just a ghost. It was alive, born from ancient energy, powered by pain and suffering. Mira's voice was firm. We're not going to die here. Zara, find a way to trap it. Jax, prepare the engines. We're getting out of here. Zara's fingers flew over the controls, her voice steady despite the fear. I think I can lock it in the power core. But it's risky. If it breaks free. Mira's eyes were fierce. Then we'll face it. Together. The shadow moved closer, its form twisting, its scream growing louder. The air grew colder, the lights flickering wildly. It was angry, hungry, and powerful. Mira stood tall, her weapon ready. You want revenge? Come and get it. The shadow lunged, its form stretching, its hollow eyes burning with rage. But Mira didn't flinch. She was human. She was strong. And she would fight. no matter the cost. The part ended with the shadow charging at Mira, its scream echoing through the ship. The battle was just beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The shadow lunged, its twisted form rushing at Mira with impossible speed. Its hollow eyes burned with anger, its mouth stretched wide in a silent scream. Cold air flooded the bridge as it moved, freezing everything it touched. Mira didn't back down. Her weapon hummed to life, bright energy sparking at the tip. "Come on, you cursed soul. Let's end this." The shadow's form shifted, twisting around the weapon's light, avoiding its deadly glow. It was clever, almost intelligent. It danced around her attacks, its movements unnatural, broken, as if time itself was bending around it. Jax's hands flew over the controls. "Captain, it's in our systems. It's corrupting everything." The ship's lights flickered, the engines groaning as the shadow's presence invaded their circuits. Screens flashed with ancient symbols, the same ones they saw on the cursed ship. The symbol seemed to pulse, alive with dark energy. Zara's voice was tight with fear. "It's trying to take over. It's feeding on our power." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Then we cut it off. Jax, isolate the power core. Don't let it reach the engines." Jax's fingers danced over the keys. On it, the shadow twisted, its form stretching, its hollow eyes fixed on Jax. It moved towards him, its arms elongating, fingers sharp as knives. Mira's heart raced. "Jax, watch out." Jax turned just as the shadow struck. He rolled to the side, barely escaping its icy touch. The floor where he stood froze, the metal cracking under the cold. Zara's face went pale. "It's not just a ghost. It's trying to kill us." Mira's jaw clenched. "It's more than that. It's a prisoner, and we're its way out." The shadow turned to her, its face twisting with rage. It lunged again, its form stretching across the room, reaching for her with clawed fingers. Mira swung her weapon, the energy slicing through the darkness. The shadow screamed, its form breaking apart before reforming. It was hurt, but not defeated. Zara's console beeped. "Captain, I think I've found a way to trap it, but we need to lure it to the power core." Mira's eyes never left the shadow. "Do it. Jax, get the engines ready. The moment it's trapped, we're leaving this cursed place." Jax nodded, his hands moving quickly. "Understood." Mira took a step forward, her weapon glowing bright. "Hey, over here." The shadow turned, its hollow eyes narrowing. It moved towards her, its form twisting and stretching, its rage almost tangible. Mira backed away, leading it out of the bridge. It followed, its silent scream echoing through the halls, its presence freezing the air. She moved fast, her heart pounding. The power core was deep in the ship's heart. She just needed to get it there and survive. The shadow lunged, its clawed fingers reaching for her. Mira rolled to the side, firing her weapon. The energy sliced through the darkness, making it scream. It twisted in pain before reforming, more furious than before. It charged at her, its form stretching, moving through the walls, closing in from all sides. Mira's eyes narrowed. "You want me? Come and get me." She ran, the shadow chasing her, its cold breath on her neck. The hallways grew darker as it moved, the lights flickering, the air freezing. She reached the power core, its bright energy pulsing in the center of the room. Zara's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, now, lure it inside." Mira moved to the console, her fingers flying over the keys. The core opened, revealing a swirling vortex of energy. It was bright, powerful, and hungry. The shadow hesitated, its form twisting, its hollow eyes filled with fear. It could feel the energy's pull, the same pull that had trapped it for centuries. Mira's voice was cold. "This is where your curse ends." The shadow screamed, its form stretching, resisting the vortex's pull. It tried to flee, but Mira fired her weapon, the energy beam pushing it closer to the core. The vortex roared, its power surging, pulling the shadow inside. It fought, its form breaking apart, its scream echoing through the ship. Mira's eyes were fierce. "You're not escaping. Not this time." She fired again, the beam slicing through the darkness. The shadow shattered, its pieces sucked into the vortex, its scream fading. The core closed, its energy stabilizing. The air grew warmer, the lights stopped flickering. The shadow was gone, trapped once again. Mira fell to her knees, her breath heavy. It was over. Jax's voice came over the comms. "Captain, is it gone?" Mira looked at the core, its light pulsing calmly. "It's trapped. For now." Zora's voice was shaky. "We should leave. Whatever that thing was, it's too dangerous to keep on board." Mira stood, her eyes cold. "Agreed. Jax, get us out of here. Full speed." Jax's hands moved over the controls. "Understood. Leaving the forbidden zone." The engines roared, the ship moving away from the cursed space. The stars stretched as they jumped to light speed, leaving the nightmare behind. But Mira couldn't shake the feeling of being washed. The shadow was trapped, but its curse was still alive, hidden in the circuits, waiting. The part ended with Mira looking at the power core, its light pulsing softly. A chill ran down her spine. The curse wasn't broken, only delayed. The ship sped through the stars, leaving the forbidden zone behind. But the coldness lingered, like a shadow that refused to fade. Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the power core's display. It glowed softly, its energy stable. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling of something watching her. Jax's voice broke the silence. "Engines are stable. We're clear of the cursed zone." Zora shivered, rubbing her arms. "Then why is it still so cold?" Mira's jaw tightened. "It's not over." The lights flickered, just for a moment. A faint whisper echoed through the ship's comms, like a distant scream. It was so faint, Mira almost thought she imagined it. Almost. Jax turned pale. Did you hear that?" Mira's voice was firm. "We need to secure the power core. That thing might be trapped, but it's still here, somewhere." Zora's console beeped. "Captain, there's a fluctuation in the energy readings. It's like something's trying to break free." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Jax, prepare the containment protocols. Zora, monitor the core. If it even twitches, I want to know." Jax moved quickly, his fingers flying over the controls. "On it. But if that thing gets out, I don't think we can trap it again." Mira's voice was cold. "Then we make sure it doesn't." The ship groaned, the metal creaking as if under pressure. The lights dimmed, shadows stretching across the walls. The air grew colder, mist forming as their breaths turned to fog. Zara's eyes widened. It's here. It's moving through the ship." Mira's grip tightened on her weapon. "It's not bound by form. It can move through walls, through circuits. It's not just a ghost. It's a curse." The comms crackled, a distorted voice echoing through the speakers. It was twisted, broken, echoing from somewhere deep within the ship. "Free. Free me." Jax's face turned pale. "It's talking. It's learning our language." Mira's eyes were cold. "It wants freedom, but it only brings death." The ship shook, the walls trembling as the lights flickered. Shadows danced along the corridors, their shapes twisting, faces forming for brief moments before vanishing. Zara's console sparked, symbols flashing across the screen. It's corrupting our systems. It's trying to take control." Mira didn't hesitate. "Shut down all non-essential systems. Isolate the core. Don't let it spread." Jax's hands moved fast, trotting. But it's fighting back. It's in the circuits. It's everywhere. The comms crackled again, the voice louder this time, almost mocking. "Free me, or join me." Mira's eyes narrowed. "We're not playing your game." The shadows moved, gathering at the edges of the bridge. They twisted, forming shapes, faces, eyes that stared with hollow hatred. The temperature dropped, frost forming on the consoles. Zara's voice shook. It's here. It's on the bridge. The shadows lunged, their forms stretching, reaching for them. Mira fired her weapon, the energy beam cutting through the darkness. The shadows screamed, retreating before reforming. Jax backed up, his face pale. Captain, it's learning. It's adapting. Mira's jaw tightened. Then we need to end this. Now. The power core pulsed, its light flickering. The shadows twisted, drawn to its energy. They moved like smoke, curling around the core, feeding on its power. Zara's console flashed red. Captain, it's draining the core. If it keeps feeding, it'll break free. Mira's mind raced. We need to overload it. If we flood the core with energy, it might destroy the shadow once and for all. Jax hesitated, but that could destroy the ship, and us with it. Mira's eyes were cold. If we don't, it'll consume us anyway. Zara looked at her, fear in her eyes. Are you sure? Mira didn't hesitate. We end this, here and now. She moved to the console, her fingers flying over the keys. The core's energy levels spiked, the lights turning red. Warning alarms blared as the core began to overload, its power surging. The shadows screamed, their forms twisting in pain. They tried to flee, but the energy pulled them in, consuming them. The hollow faces distorted, their mouths wide in silent screams as they were sucked into the core's vortex. The ship shook violently, metal groaning under the pressure. Sparks flew as the circuits overloaded, the energy reaching critical levels. Jax's voice was panicked. Captain, if we don't eject the core, we're all dead. Mira's eyes never left the shadows. Just a little more. We need to make sure it's destroyed. The shadows twisted, their forms breaking apart, their screams echoing through the ship. One face appeared, its hollow eyes locking with Mira's, its mouth forming a single word, revenge. Then it shattered, its form consumed by the light. The shadows were gone. Mira hit the button, ejecting the core. Now. The core shot out of the ship, its light bright as a star. It exploded, a shockwave of energy washing over the ship, making it tremble before the light stabilized. The shadows were gone. The air grew warm again. The curse was broken. Zara's voice was shaky. Is it over? Mira's shoulders relaxed, her weapon lowering. For now, yes. Jax let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Let's never do that again. Mira's eyes were cold. Agreed. But we're not done. We need to make sure this thing never returns. She looked at the empty space where the core had been, its light still echoing in her eyes. The curse was gone, but the memory of those hollow faces would haunt her forever. The ship moved through the stars, leaving the cursed echoes behind. But in the distance, in the shadows between the stars, something watched, waiting. The part ended with the empty void, silent, but not at peace. The ship drifted through the stars, the echoes of the curse fading into the void. But the silence was heavy, like a weight pressing down on them. Mira stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. Jax approached, his face pale. Scans are clear. No anomalies, no energy readings, nothing. Mira's voice was cold. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's gone. Zara shivered, rubbing her arms. I can still feel it. Like it's watching us. The lights flickered, just for a moment. Mira's jaw tightened. Stay alert. Whatever that thing was, it didn't go down easily. Jax hesitated. You really think it's still out there? Mira's eyes were hard. I think curses don't die. They wait. The comms crackled, a faint whisper echoing through the static. It was so faint, so distant, like a memory trying to break through. Mira's blood ran cold. Zara's face went pale. "Did you hear that?" Mira's voice was firm. "Ignore it. It feeds on fear. Don't give it what it wants." Jax's console beeped. "Captain, we're getting a signal." Mira's eyes narrowed. "From where?" Jax's fingers flew over the keys. "Coordinates match the location where we ejected the core." The room went cold. Zara's voice was a whisper. "That's impossible. The core was destroyed." Mira's jaw tightened. Or something came back. The signal was faint, distorted, but unmistakable. It was an SOS, the same one that had lured them into the cursed zone. Jax's face turned pale. It's the same signal. But how?" Mira's eyes were cold. "It's not a signal. It's an echo, a remnant of that thing." The comms crackled again, the voice clearer this time, echoing through the ship. "Help. Me." Zara covered her ears, her voice shaking. No, it's trying to trick us again." Mira's eyes narrowed. "It wants us to go back. It wants us to bring it on board again." Jax's hands shook. "But how can it still call out if it was destroyed?" Mira's voice was cold. "Because curses don't die. They echo." The lights dimmed, the shadows stretching across the walls. The air grew cold again, frost forming on the consoles. Zara's breath turned to mist as she shivered. Mira stood firm. "Don't listen to it. It's trying to break us." The shadows moved, faces forming in the darkness, their hollow eyes staring, mouths twisted in silent screams. The same faces they had seen before, the same souls trapped by the curse. Zara's voice was a whisper. "It's them, the ones who answered the SOS before us, the ones who never escaped." Jax backed up, his eyes wide with fear. "We're cursed, just like them. It followed us." Mira's voice was hard. "No, it tried to follow us, but we won't let it." The ship trembled, the metal groaning as if under pressure. The shadows moved, twisting, reaching for them. Mira's weapon fired, the energy beam cutting through the darkness. The shadows screamed, retreating before reforming. They couldn't be destroyed, only held back. Zara's console sparked, the symbols flashing across the screen. "It's corrupting the systems again. It's everywhere." Mira's jaw tightened. "Jax, initiate the cleansing protocol. We're burning this thing out of our systems." Jax hesitated. "But that will wipe everything. We'll lose all our data." Mira's eyes were cold. "Better to lose data than our souls." Jax nodded, his hands moving over the controls. The ship's lights turned red, warning alarms blaring as the cleansing protocol activated. Energy surged through the circuits, burning away the shadows. The faces twisted, their mouths wide in silent screams as they were consumed by the light. The ship shook, the walls trembling as the darkness was purged. The comms crackled, the voice echoing one last time. "Free. Me." Then the shadows shattered, their forms breaking apart, fading into nothing. The coldness lifted, the air growing warm again. The curse was gone. Zara let out a shaky breath. Is it really over?" Mira's shoulders relaxed, her weapon lowering. "For now. But we're not taking any chances." Jax's voice was tired. "What do we do now?" Mira's eyes were hard. "We warn the galaxy. We tell them to never answer that signal, to never go to that cursed zone. We end this, for good." Zara looked at her, fear still in her eyes. "And if it comes back?" Mira's voice was cold. "Then we'll be ready." The ship moved through the stars, leaving the cursed echoes behind. But the memory of those hollow faces stayed with them, a reminder of the darkness that lurked in the void. As they flew away, the stars flickered, and in the distance, the faint echo of an SOS whispered through the void, waiting for its next victim. The story ended with the haunting call, lingering in the cold darkness of space, unanswered.